start from the beginning. I mean, I did a little bit of stalking, saw you're on a bunch of different podcasts and was reading some of the
Yeah.
interviews and everything. So I definitely want to start at the beginning. And so when did you realize? 'Cause I was listening to some of the podcasts. You went to college, you went to Purdue, and everything like that. But like, when did you realize that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Like, what was like I think we all have our own moments and everything when we quit our jobs and stuff. But like, when was it that you realized, okay, this is the way that I'm wired. I can't work a 9 to 5. Like, I want to start this thing myself.
It's a good question. I think it was when I was in college that I started to realize that. Both my parents my dad was more entrepreneurial in that he didn't have a boss per se. He was renovating houses on his own time and all that kind of stuff. And my mom was very white collar in her position at her job. And so kind of being raised by both of those, the hybrid was this, right? I'm kind of a white collar and a blue collar industry, if you will. And those two parents, I don't know. I think that I liked the freedom that my dad had, I guess. And I also had other people in my life that were also business owners, and I liked that. I don't know from a young age that I realized fully what that would mean for my life and what that would demand from my life, because you create a beast, then you have to feed it. And this thing your life kind of becomes a bit chaotic, or as chaotic as you'd like it to be. But when I was in college, I was going to college for architectural engineering, right? And I learned quickly that I hated school, bro. I couldn't do it, man. 3-hour classes where I'm sitting in front of a computer drawing lines with no windows. I quickly smoked lots of cigarettes. I was just like, dude, I was losing it. I was cutting class to go work outside, right? And so I'm like, I can come back to this if I ever want to. I can come back and finish this thing off. And so I guess it started out with just like, it was a way to pay for college, right? It was a way to pay through college. And then it became something that was, you know what? This could be a career move. This could be something where I let this thing scale, and it did. So that's kind of how it was birthed. It was quite simple, honestly.
And when did you work at a landscaping company throughout that time? Like, how did you get into the outdoor living, the hardscaping, all that stuff?
Good question. My first job, before I even had a license, was working for a landscaper, and he was like a friend of the family in our church and all that kind of stuff. And then in high school and a little bit in college, I was working with a buddy of mine who's still a really close friend of mine to this day. And we were, him and I just go out and cut a bunch of grass. So I was familiar with the industry. And when I started up my thing, it wasn't first and foremost hardscape. It was lawn care. We were just going out there and getting a bunch of people to jump on board to let us cut their grass. And then started getting some landscape jobs out of it. I didn't really know a whole lot about landscaping, but I'm like, all right, I'll take it on and I'll figure it out. And I know I'm going to fail along the way, but I'll learn from those failures, and it'll be cheaper than college. So when hardscape started to become a thing, I knew even less about that. I knew what it was, and I knew the basic tenets of it, but I didn't know it thoroughly. So I went out and found some people that did know how to do that. So that's the general story of this company along the way is from the conception to now has been constantly figuring out what are we weak in, what am I personally weak in, and how do I compensate for those weaknesses with something far stronger. Like I needed to not just find somebody that can do the things that I'm weak in, but somebody who is a powerhouse with those weaknesses if I really want this business to springboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's definitely the goal of every entrepreneur, putting those puzzle pieces in place to build the business. So tell us a little bit more about Creekside, and so how is it structured at the employees, the departments? How have you put those puzzle pieces in place to really, so that way you can do podcasts like this, like you can be in your office and do things like this and really take yourself out of it?
Hey man, some days you wish you were out there slinging a shovel with the headaches that you have in this office. But how it's structured, I mean, yeah, I mean, I to take it through the growth stages, I was, you know, what, 15, 16 years ago, it was, we had one crew that would go and cut grass, and then we would go and do landscaping like 1 or 2 days a week. Then we had enough work to have one crew that was dedicated to landscape and one crew that was dedicated to the mowing stuff. And that just kind of kept on scaling in that way until it became unmanageable to do it on my own. And so I started to look for somebody that could be an operations manager, general manager, whatever. And from that started that position has since been dissolved, and now it's more of like I'm for all intents and purposes president and operations manager, if you will. And I have division managers. So I have somebody whose sole purpose in the company is to sell. They're selling any kind of landscaping. They're selling any kind of maintenance packages exclusively to commercial clients now. That's another whole nother thing that we can talk about too. And then we have a manager for our maintenance division, which is going to be our, the mowing, the fertilizing, the snow, all that kind of stuff. And then a landscape construction project manager. That, and then we have, other roles in the company, such as, I have a full-time mechanic, full-time, a couple design people that we employ. We have Carrie downstairs. Carrie is our client services representative. She's the first face that you see when you walk in the office, and she's invoicing maintenance people and all that kind of stuff. So I still will from time to time have a question or a phone call from a guy in the field, which is okay because I'm doing a lot of the larger sales myself. So my role now in the company is limited to this kind of stuff, right? I'm building the brand, I'm doing the marketing and the media, but I'm also doing like larger sales, anything that's going to be something that is a design build project. And then I'm liaisoning with our design team, getting them all the pieces of information that they might need. And then I'm having the client come in this office, sit right there, and we get them signed up for their outdoor space. So that's kind of that's the long and the short of it. And anyway, but the field staff, yes, sometimes will contact me, but for the most part, I try to get them sheets and spreadsheets of all the things that they're going to need on site. The goal is to eliminate the question. And if I'm getting a question, that I did something wrong. If I'm getting the question and I did not give them enough information, and that happens frequently. And if any of my staff are going to watch this, they will be nodding their heads right about now, because it is a frequent occurrence that I'll botch something, dude. I'll have 20 more tons of stone in a contract on accident, or I won't have a color for a paver. And it's just, it's been this way for years. And I don't know why. I can't get my mind to get it every single time. We're all fallible and we all have our weaknesses. But I know that's the next thing that I need to fire myself from, is to get somebody who is strong in that position. I'm really going all kinds of tangents here, but that is a position that's kind of a trickier one to fill, because I feel like that you can't just get any sales guy. You have to get somebody who really knows design, really knows the outdoor living thing, so but what I was going back to is your question was how are we structured to be in a place where I have the role that I have now in this limited capacity in some ways, but not limited in other ways. And that's just the hierarchy of management, really. We've got all my construction guys report to their project manager. All the maintenance guys report to their division manager, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So you said fire yourself, which I love. And to most people, it sounds counterintuitive, where it's like, what the heck does that mean? And as an entrepreneur, that's like our mantra. One of the guys that kind of put me into marketing, he always would tell me that, like from the get-go. It was like my first job out of college in a marketing agency. And him as an entrepreneur, he kind of took me under his wing, and he would always say, you always want to fire yourself. And exactly like you're saying, putting people the most successful entrepreneur doesn't know everything. He just knows who
Yep.
to put in the key positions. So
Yes.
as you go from like, the landscaping, the lawn mowers, and all like the simpler stuff, and then transforming into all these big, and you mentioned commercials. I definitely want to ask about that, but moving into all these huge intricate, everything needs 3D design and all these crazy, obviously just way more hands in the pot. What would you say is the key to, it sounds like you've hired a ton of people and built out all these different segments in your business. What would you say is the key that you look for in terms of, giving yourself the ability to fire yourself? Actually, two questions. So at what point do you say, okay, I need to fire myself from, there's A through D. I need to fire myself for C because I can't do it anymore. I'm not doing it to the best of the ability to grow the business. So what's like the signal there? And then once you fire yourself, to start the hiring process, and what exactly are you looking for that role specifically, like in a person?
Great question. Great couple of questions. Well, I'd say the first part is, yeah, I mean, number one, if you are responsible for something as a business owner and you know that you're weak, and you just know, right? Sales, for example, I know that I'm not weak. I know that I can sell. I know that I can go out there and show somebody, and mainly because I've gotten that kind of feedback. I've gotten the feedback that people enjoyed working with me on the project. They enjoyed talking to me more than the other 3 guys they had out. So I'll take that and go, okay, cool. So I know that I'm in a good spot in terms of where, talent meets desire, meets good output. So, but if it wasn't, and if I was like sucking at it and it's like, this is something that we really need, okay, that's an indicator. I think another indicator is, and this is a really good friend of mine. His name's Sam Gemble. His company's Atlas Outdoor. He'd be somebody you guys want to reach out to. And you'll throw this podcast out after you record that one. He's good. But one of the things he talks about is, if you could hire somebody and they could do the job that you're doing half as good, it's worthwhile. Half to 75%, 50 to 75%. Because you're the business owner and you have to be focused on larger things. You have to be focused on moving the business forward. You have to be focused on the culture and building people and being a good leader. So it's not always about like if you're weak at something, but though that is a good transition point. That's a good place to try to figure out. It's a good red flag for yourself is if you're weak at something. But even if you're great at something, if you can find somebody that can do it half as good or 3/4 as good, that's a good move. Or to ask yourself, is this thing a $1,000 hour task? I'm not paying myself $1,000 an hour, but is this a $1,000 an hour task? No. Okay. Well, then how do we find somebody else to fill this role so I can go find some other things that nobody else can do? Because in a business, you are only as good as the utilization of people's talents, right? And you have all these people, you have this talent pool and these resources. And if you are doing something that somebody else can do, rather than doing something that nobody else can do, you'll move forward, but not as fast. Right? So those are all really good key indicators, and that's not all inclusive, but those are some good starting points. And then once I've discovered that, so in my circumstance right now, I know that my next one will likely need to be a design sales person. Keeping the same design people that I've got, of course, but getting somebody that can be the one that's going out there. I'm fielding the phone calls to determine if this is a worthwhile client to pursue. Are we going to jive? Are they familiar, even vaguely, with what it's going to cost them? And then I'm going out there and boots on the ground and talking with them. So I have my investment in every client is probably 5-6 hours, right? So who's the type of person that I'm looking for? I am a firm believer that you can train attitude and character, right? So I can take anybody who's got the attitude and the character that I'm looking for. And I mean, there's tons of people that are in the green industry and any other industry. For crying out loud, my mom has her degree in music something from the University of Miami, and never once does she have a music job. Her job now is like miles away from anything to do with music. It's to do with finance, and she has her own team of like 15 people in Canada. And I mean, she's a corporate America rock star. So her story was she was elevated because of her character and her attitude. And so you can be trained on that. And the flip side is also true. You could find somebody who's like the best guy, but he has got a dog poo attitude, man. He sucks, and he's going to be toxic for the company. He's going to tear you down. That's the wrong move. That's always the wrong move. And I that took me a while to figure out, because I had some of those people. I had some of those people that I thought, well, they're decent with this and this, but like everybody else hated working with them. And I didn't enjoy coming to work. I didn't want to come to work because these people, I knew I'd have to go and talk to these people. So do I like them? That's a good place to start. Do I like them? Okay, cool. Do they have character? What, I want to look at their resume and see what stands out to me with that. And for a high level thing, for field workers, construction guys and guys that are out boots on the ground, that's not so much me interviewing that. That's my division managers. And that does matter, no doubt. I think though, when you're talking management level, you need to have a lot of conversations. You got to be having lots of conversations with one person to really feel them out and understand who they are as a person. And are they going to be good for your company? Are they going to be a good fit? Are they going to be a great representative of your brand? And if they're not, you move on. So me personally, what's a really big plus for me, I have, and it's not something that I have deliberately gone out and sought. But I personally am a strong Christian. I love Jesus, and that is the blueprint for my life. That is the lens that I view all of life through, including my profession. And for one reason or another, we've got a handful of people on our staff, including our management staff, that is like, they're also the same way. My project manager, his name's Joel. He will insist that we end the meeting in prayer. And I'm just like, dude, I could cry just saying that. I'm just like, that is freaking so cool. So, and I'm talking about it from my vantage point as a Christian, but I guess what I'm trying to say is our values align. Yeah. Right. So I have this certain core set of foundational values, and I need to make sure that whoever I'm hiring also has those types of values too. Right. Otherwise we're not seeing life the same. We're not going to see business the same. So that's really important, I think. And I don't know that, I'm going to go, it's not going to be on a LinkedIn. I'm looking for a Christian worker. I think it might even be illegal or something stupid, but that does place a lot of stock with me. Like, you find your hope and your joy in something that is much bigger than this life, and something that's much bigger than this mere little company. Like, cool. Like, I can trust that your values come from something that is not something I'm going to give you. Like, it's something else that we both find a common denominator with. So that to me is big.
Wow. Yeah. No, 100%. And I mean, I'm a believer as well. And it's really encouraging to just like see like a business owner that's like eons ahead of us, like structuring his company that way and hiring that way and everything. I think when me and Sean and CJ got together, we shared similar values, and faith is definitely kind of one area that we definitely bonded on and everything. And I think it's why we've also succeeded as well and been able to avoid conflict. And there's three of us, and we're we're all equal owners and business partners and everything like that. And I really do believe that because of our values, because of our faith, it's definitely definitely kept us together, helped us avoid conflict, and really have a successful business partnership and everything. And I could talk about faith and entrepreneurship for hours and everything, but I do want to get into the marketing aspect of it a little bit, and how you built your personal brand. You have 100,000 followers on TikTok. That's nothing to snip to it's just a lot. And then on Instagram you have 40,000 and everything. I know Sean has some specific questions he wanted to ask in that realm, how you built up your personal brand and all the different stuff.
Hit it, Sean.
Yeah, so kind of what I was hinting at in the beginning, just, you know, talking to all these contractors, even just right now that we talk to some of our clients, people just in the past, local, any entrepreneur, any business owner. It's kind of, you fall into two different pools. It's, you don't see any value in it whatsoever. There's no ROI. You know, and people just attach like a dollar amount to, like, I posted this many times and got $0, so it doesn't work. Right. And like, that's it. And they're posting a couple of pictures, and there's no effort to it. We always try to pre-show our clients is post with a purpose, right? So everything that we do, whether it's trying something new and, you know, just giving it a shot, or, you know, continue to optimize on something that's working. And then in our realm, at least, you know, I kind of take it a step further, where we kind of look at our organic posting as like a sandbox, because once something's getting a ton of engagement, both from, you know, because there's two different parties you have to kind of please when you're posting. It's the people who are following you and people who are engaging, but also then the algorithms on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is. But once those two things are clearly working, you're getting a ton of engagement on a post that's, you know, a design and build, whatever it is, then you can start putting money behind it. And that's kind of like a little cheat code to knowing that the ad is going to be preferred by Facebook's platform and the algorithm. And that way you're getting cheaper CPMs, and the placements are better, and et cetera. So everything kind of works into that. So we try to really nail that in, especially with the clients that we're working with. And we definitely want to keep spreading that message. And when I was like, when I saw that this was on the calendar talking to you, I was like, all right, now we can finally talk about this, because you're the epitome of that. So I just kind of wanted to get, like, from the beginning of, you know, if it was your personal brand that you started building out, or if it was the business, and then kind of, one, I guess, why did you keep doing it? Like, obviously it's working out now, but in the beginning, you know, you're probably not seeing results, but you continue to post, and obviously, you know, it keeps growing exponentially, and then now you're here. So it's like no brainer at this point. But looking back, what was kind of the motive to post? What was the strategy behind it? You know, anything, any sort of insights that you can get to the, you know, the guys who are watching this right now, and, you know, they don't post at all, or they don't see any value in it.
Sure. I want to say I was always online from the beginning. Like, I don't know that I was ever, like, not on Facebook, or never, like, not on whatever platform was hot at the time. My posts were definitely more limited to, like, the craft, right? Was dedicated to here's what we're doing and all that kind of stuff, rather than really anything about me. Yeah, I don't know that it was until, and 4 or 5 years ago, even, that I really, maybe even more than that, that I really started to involve myself a bit more, as I understood that. I think I've seen other companies do it well, where they there's a face behind the name. Like, it's good to have a good name, it's good to have a good brand and a good logo and all that kind of stuff. But people, I think even more so nowadays, crave authenticity. And I think that's why you see a lot of brands nowadays that are, when you scroll through TikTok or Instagram, you know when you stumbled across an ad, and you may be dumbfounded sometimes when you stumble across something you didn't know it was an ad, and it turns out to be an ad. Those are better. Those are better, because when your spidey senses tune up and you're like, that's an ad, flip, gone, I'm out. But when you see somebody that's got they said once, or they're like, hey guys, blah blah blah, whatever, like you're like, oh, okay, this is something authentic that I'm about to watch or listen to. And that's why you see big companies dumping money into influencers nowadays. I mean, if I was a PepsiCo, or if I was a Hydro Flask or Apple or whatever, if I was that CEO, I'd say zero more dollars to NBC or ABC or to any of these companies where we have to go and put high production numbers into a commercial that people hate. People hate commercials, but we're dumping all this money into it. But people love authenticity and originality. So where do I want to put my money? I want to go make some influencer, some 18-year-old little dancing girl or something, a millionaire real quick to pump my stuff. So I think that like seeing that kind of trend, I'm like, okay, I want to get on here more. And I'm going to talk about myself more. And I have my own personal Instagram, and I, have a separate one for Creekside. And I always had them separate. And within the last probably couple of years, I almost never post my personal one. In fact, I've even thought about deleting my personal one in favor of just having the professional one, because I want my audience to thoroughly know who I am. And it sounds selfish. It sounds cringy, even when I say it, even to myself right now. Like, I want my audience to know who I am. Because it's like, dude, I have this huge team behind me, and they are the makeup. They're the ones, right? However, I've come to understand that the general audience, like they want one face. They want one face to associate with the brand. Who is some other ones that were successful? Was it like was it T-Mobile or Virgin Mobile or something like that? Richard Branson, was that? Am I wrong? Am I going somewhere?
Yep. No, that's correct.
Okay. He was the brand. He's the face of the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of the brand, you would think of him. And if you got some kind of a personality, if you have charisma in any way, shape, or form, if you can have a conversation with another human being, you should be talking about that on social media and letting people know who they are about to get in bed with, so to speak. Because it's not just the brand. People, I mean, I've scrolled through Instagram before when I'm looking for some sort of service, admittedly, like that or Facebook, and I'm like, it's kind of a cool logo. They might be worth something, But I'm like, I still am craving like who, because I know some marketing agency made that logo, and is it a guy that doesn't know what he's doing? Is it a guy that like cusses up a storm that I wouldn't want to be around, by future children or something like that? Like, I don't know. I want to know who you are, and I feel like people want to know who people are behind a brand. So I think that kind of revelation to me sparked my desire to want to be doing this, to want to be doing face on camera, posting to social, having my voice recognized. I mean, that awards banquet that we went to last night, I was pulled aside by, I don't know, 5 or 6 people, and they said they knew us. They knew who we were. I had nothing on me that said Creekside, but they're like, "Oh, you're Mike from Creekside. Thank you." Goal. That is a goal. Not because I'm trying to be some sort of landscaping celebrity. I don't care about that. What I care about is the recognition of the brand, and to hold that brand high and to create value to that brand. And I feel like when that happens, you feel like you have reached that. Now that works in a room full of contractors who were all in the same industry. But what about my ideal client? When my client is searching for who they want, and they see my stuff, and I'm talking through a project, and they see my face, they feel like they know me. When I show up and I shake their hand, they know my name already, and they feel like they know me. I've got an advantage there above somebody else who hasn't done the same thing, I feel like. So does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, no, that was awesome. I mean, so just exactly like you're saying, within the industry, awesome to get that handshake. But when you show up to a bid and you're shaking their hand, and they're like, "Wait, what? This is the guy that I'm always talking." It's almost like that celebrity status, and like you're saying, it's right. So it obviously helps with the business and, just furthering, it puts you aside because, outside of we can build the best backyard in the entire world, there's a bunch of other companies that are also saying that. But once you're able to exactly put your face to it, speak to your expertise, create different content to answer different questions. So now the gap between you and your competitors are going up and up and up because they don't even know who the heck is on the other side of, just posting just pictures of, even if they're extravagant, they don't know who's on the other side of, ABC contracting company that are just posting stuff just to post. So that's absolutely an advantage. I mean, that was awesome what you just went through right there.
Here's the other part too. What are one of the biggest issues if you were to poll a group of contractors in a room and ask, what's your biggest issue facing and plaguing you today? What do you think they'd say? Labor. Can't get good guys. Can't get enough people. So what this also does is, especially if you can manage to get an audience that is nationwide, you establish yourself as the place to work. There's been a handful of people that came to work here because of what we've done online, and they've been great additions. We like them a lot, and so it's got an effect for marketing to your ideal. But really, think about it this way, man. All of life, whether it's personal or professional, is relational. And if I am going to want to date a girl, I have to sell myself on who I am. I'm entering a relationship with her, or a friendship, or a client, or an employee. All of this stuff is all relational. It's all people based. And the employee has to go, do I want to work for this type of person? The client has to go, do I want to work with this type of person? So this beautiful online thing is just the gateway for people to have a window into your soul a little bit, or so it should. I feel like that's just my personal philosophy. There's people that don't agree, and that's fine. There's people that post unbelievably gorgeous landscaping, and I'm like, dude, like maybe I should just be doing that all the time. But I have found a niche with just here's my life. I'm gonna show the good. I'm gonna show the bad, especially the bad. Nobody shows the bad ever. So I'm so determined to show the bad because it exists. Getting fines and citations, or getting a lawsuit, or whatever. I want to talk about it, and that just, I feel like that gives people, if I can be a little bit come their way with vulnerability, they'll come my way with friendship. So
that's super powerful. That's really cool. And it, what you're saying there is talking about you're building brand awareness, you're building the brand recognizability through really just being authentic and being transparent, like you said, even being vulnerable at some points with the stuff that's bad. I think all of that is really cool. And it makes me think of the next point, which you touched on the client side a little bit. But in addition to the authenticity, how important would you say that building trust with your customers are? I mean, these are clients that you will be coming into their home for the consultation. You're going to be in and out of their backyard throughout the build. And there's so many different touch points that you can have with a client, from phone calls when they're calling your office and reception, to emails, whether they're automated or you're sending them text messages, these posts on social media. So how important would you say is building trust to put you in the right place to make that first step on a project?
I mean, how important is it? If you don't have it, you don't have the project.
Yeah.
If you haven't established a sense of trust, then you aren't walking through their front door to talk about their project. So I mean, it's crucial. It's pivotal. Yeah, I mean, and to the degree that you can create that trust, so the degree that they trust you with their project, they'll trust you with their budget, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And would you say, in addition to being authentic, is there other going a little bit deeper ways of building trust that are important to you at Creekside?
dived a little bit deeper on that. Give me a little bit more context on that.
Yeah. So maybe just more hands-on things that as you're stepping into a project, ways that you build trust. I think being authentic on social media is huge. That's a big part of it because they feel like they know you before you ever step on site, before you ever shake hands, before you ever meet them in person. Once that starts, once you go to their house, you meet them, you begin working on projects. Are there ways that you found to build trust, whether that's just communication throughout the project, it's transparency about things going wrong, ways that you found are really effective for building trust throughout the entire lifetime of working with that customer?
Yeah, I mean, nothing. There's nothing magical that we're
Yeah.
doing. We just keep the lines of communication really open. Typically, what I'll do at the beginning of a project is I'll start a text thread with myself, the client, and the project manager. And it's good for me because a lot of times people are going to want to call me with a problem when they really should be calling the project manager, but they never do. They never do. They call the person that was first in their house. So I'm trying to gear them towards that. And so I can hopefully the goal there is for a conversation to happen amongst them that I just witness happening and I don't have to interject. Doesn't always work. That's why if I see it waiting too long, then I'll jump in. Or they'll call me, and you're never going to turn down a call, especially when your clients are much larger, and so therefore they are fewer. You have the ability to then be much more personal with them. I feel like the clients that we have at least this year, a good handful of them. If I look over my calendar, I could pick out a handful that I'm like, man, I like them. I like them. And so we'll go get beers. Or we'll just, jaw jack at their house for a little bit or whatever. And I really like that because life is short and I don't want to spend time, even if it's a client, I don't want to spend time with people that I hate or that I'm just like, man, you suck as a human. Like, yeah, I don't want to be around you. Like, I really want to be able to enjoy the clients that we're working with too. So that's why I think from the get-go, it's really nice to have people that are attracted to us because I put myself out there. Because if they like that, then there's a good chance that I'm going to like them. And it's just going to be a good symbiotic relationship that, they view me as Mike, my friend, who does landscaping, So, and this is something that I've, when we're talking about firing myself from this next role, I'm still navigating that water a little bit because I'm pushing the brand with my face and my voice. But what happens when somebody else comes out and trying to figure out what does that look like? How do I still maintain that personal touch? Maybe I'm still fielding all the phone calls and I do a quick Zoom call with them, but I'm like, hey, this sales guy, near and dear to my heart, love him to death. You're going to love him too. He's going to be out there. He's going to take great care of you. Something like that. I don't know. So that's been a recent thought of mine is how I don't know, this is going to happen even within the next year. I mean, the makeup of our company right now is we're pretty overhead heavy. We have a lot of office staff and we've got a lot of overhead. And so, I don't know that'll happen for a while. We kind of need to boost our revenue. That's just our own here and now issue. But, I mean, just in general, how trust is continually, nurtured throughout the course of the project is, I mean, I'm showing up a little bit here and there, not all the time, but I have really great guys on site. I'm answering the phone. I'm talking with them. They are all watching social media as well. And so when I'm showing up and I'm gramming their backyard, it's kind of like even though I didn't directly say it to them, they saw me on site, so I don't know, all those little touch points are really key.
Yeah, 100%. One cool thing I wanted to touch on that I think you were talking about recently on your story is AI. And I wanted to ask if you are using AI now as an outdoor living contractor, if you're using it now for your business, or do you see yourself using it in the future, or do you see any applications of ChatGPT and AI and for the hardscaping and the outdoor living industry? What do you think are some applications that a contractor could use AI for?
Yeah, I mean that I'm a part of like some Facebook groups that are like business owners and AI or whatever. I'm trying to figure out like, because I know somebody said the other day like ChatGPT is like just the gateway into AI, and there's so many other things that artificial intelligence can do. I don't know. I don't know what all the things are. I'm sure somebody out there is going to be making millions when they figure out how to blend AI with contractors like me. It's going to be some sort of like artificial intelligence chat bot that it spends a month recording all of your conversations with clients, and now it knows how to answer certain questions since you refer it to them. And it's like, I don't know. So I mean, that's obviously just communication, but I mean, there's a lot of other things from photo editing to content creation to dude, it's very vast and frankly a little bit overwhelming. And I don't know. I would like to use it more because I believe that it is a thing. It's a tool. All it is a tool. It's ones and zeros, right? It is a tool. So how do I use available tools in 2023 for my advantage in a landscape construction company? And the answer is I really don't know. And I am really wanting to know more about it. So,
yeah, no, 100%. It's definitely overwhelming. We'll definitely keep you updated with what we learned and some of the tools that we're using.
Yeah,
we're actually going to throw this whole clip into an AI editor after this, and it's just going to splice it up and do all that. So I'll
I've seen that. Yep,
maybe that'll help with your editing and everything,
caption it, all that kind of stuff.
So I definitely want to be respectful of your time. I know we're coming up on the hour. We have maybe 10 minutes left. I did want to ask because one thing I know you're up north and everything in Indiana, and one question and problem that I'm hearing from a lot of contractors up north and everything is like how do they stay busy during the winter when it's the off season and everything like that? And it's a question that I don't know how to answer. Like I've been talking to some guys in Michigan and in Chicago, and we're talking about doing marketing during that time, and it's like I definitely don't want them to spend marketing dollars if they can't get a concrete job, obviously.
Yeah. So
how can somebody, a contractor up north during the winter when it gets cold, what can they do to stay busy? How can they get what can they?
I get where you're coming from. You're breaking up a little bit, but I get your question.
Yeah.
So I mean, we do snow plowing, and that's not the answer. That's really not, because that is few and far between when you have a snowfall. And our winters in the last couple of years have been warmer on average. And so, I mean, if the soil temperature is going to be in a condition where we can dig and compact, we'll be out there and we'll be installing patios. We'll be digging swimming pools. We will be out there working. We were, today's a little bit nicer up here, but the last couple of days were like in the teens, and our guys were out there working. If we can find something to do, we'll do it. Alternative to landscaping and alternative to snow, some common ones would be holiday lighting. That also is something that is seasonal though, right? So it's for a time. So, but it is something that will fill the time a little bit until you figure out something else to do. There's that. There's something that I've been dabbling with. I've been buying a lot of real estate. I've been buying a lot of houses to flip in my area. And there's a house I just got finished, got somebody moved in, but prior to that, on rain days, I'd have a bunch of guys go over there and go paint. So instead of sitting home, they were working, they were doing something. And that's something that I'd like to continue to do within the snow season. What I've tried to do is even create like a spreadsheet of all the strengths of my guys. Okay, I have like, employee, plumbing, electrical, drywall, paint, like, okay, and then put X's next to who has what experience, and how can I pair them with somebody else that has some experience and go knock some stuff out of this house. That doesn't always, none of my guys can rewire a fuse box, right? There's gonna be limitations on that, but there's something. I mean, especially if your guys are like like our guys are hardscape guys, right? They are used to a plethora of different issues that they have to overcome on a site, including hitting a wire and splicing it back together, hitting a plumbing line and hooking it back up, right? So those are two little industries right there. That's like, okay, you've got a little bit of experience in some of this kind of stuff. If they're doing pavers, they know how to do tile. They know how to do carpet. They could probably figure out how to lay some cabinets. So it's a little bit of a fine line. I mean, because if you hire a good professional painter to come in, he might be able to do the whole house in the time it takes your guys that are inexperienced to do one room. But yeah, you kind of got to weigh those options out, and you might be taking a little bit of a loss on one hand to feed your guys a little bit on the other hand and keep them happy. So yeah, we're kind of exploring that stuff a little bit. There's always maintenance in the inside of your shop, right? There's stuff that has to be taken apart depending on the age of your equipment. We used to have a lot more guys in, but we used to have older equipment, and so now we have newer stuff. And so great on one hand, but for them, they're looking for shop hours. I'm like, hey brother, there's only so many times I can have you wash this truck in one day, So yeah, we're always looking to innovate with that kind of stuff. I wish we could just landscape all year round. Would love that, man, because that's just constant and consistent, and the guys don't got to worry. And but that's just not our reality up here. So we just have to get a little bit more creative.
No, 100%. I appreciate those insights. I'll definitely share those with some of the other contractors I'm talking to, the smaller ones and everything. I don't know, CJ, Shaw, do you guys have any last questions?
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask about because you mentioned commercial before, and I'm definitely really interested in that, because obviously there's two different. So with the residential, like what was because obviously you've had a ton of different cycles in the business, right? Starting with the landscape and then moving up and the hardscapes, and then right. What was the movement from residential into commercial, and like especially focusing that way, and like how did you do that? Because I know that's obviously a big leap in itself. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. We started studying what we were doing with residential, and we started realizing that we were paying Mrs. Johnson for the privilege of going to cut her grass. This company doesn't exist as a hobby, and I got my hobbies. One of them is a dirt bike, and the other one's a gun and a book. Like, that's my hobbies. My hobby is not working. So yeah, that's it took a while to realize that. For a while, I mean, it was paying some bills, but costs have risen, right? But our prices haven't. You still have Chuck in a truck that's going to go and slap a bunch of door hangers on people's doors saying, I can start this at $25 a cut. No, sir, you can't. You can't, because it is going to cost you far more than that. So yeah, and it's also, I think from like an individual perspective like that, like cost per cut and all that kind of stuff, it did make sense. Also, you have to have far more people answering phones for something like that. So if you send out one crew and they go hit 30 houses in a day, you have 30 people to answer to, versus one crew going to one place, you have one person to answer to. So now your management power does not have to be as robust with commercial. With commercial, we're also going to get the snow plowing and the enhancements and this and this, when we don't want to offer that to residential. So we'll still maintain residential fertilizer. We'll fertilize anything and everything, but on the maintenance side, it just no longer made sense, and it was a drastic cut. Like, we had 3.5-ish crews that were like doing nothing but mowing, and we after our cut, we went down to two crews. But we're far better off. It's far better off. We're no longer spinning our wheels. We know we're making money. Not great money. Maintenance will never make great money, but it'll be consistent money, and it'll be recession-proof money, especially if it's commercial, because commercial businesses in order to survive, they have certain costs, such as their maintenance of their outdoor space. They can't open if they have ice in the parking lot. Like it's good to be involved in recession-proof things. If it's residential, maybe they can go mow their own grass if they're in a pinch. Commercial clients really they're not geared to do that kind of stuff. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, commercial just for the simple fact of having one crew at one place all day. If you can do something like that, I mean, just gosh, man, just from accounting standpoint, that's great. From a customer service standpoint, now you can really service that client because your focus is totally on that client rather than being spread across so many people. You just can't. So, and I think that every company is different. I think that, I don't know, if you have like absolutely zero overhead and maybe you go and get just a ton of houses and you don't have any other work, I think it's a little bit different, right? So I think it's just something to grow into and something to progress into. But once you get to that point, you just got to do it. And it was scary for me to do that, man. It was scary. I had people that were on my team that were like, "Hey, man, look at these numbers." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can't refute that." I mean, we're just literally making no money on it. Nothing. It's for what? For what? We're showing up to somebody's house with $100,000 worth of equipment, and we're getting a quarter of what a plumber would get for the same amount of time, and he's showing up with a quarter of the amount of money worth of equipment. It just fundamentally it's absolutely no sense. So yeah, if we were to have stayed in that game just from a financial perspective, we would have had to have 3-4x'd a lot of people's prices for it to actually make sense. So that tells you how far below we were on that. So yeah, couldn't do it.
That makes sense. And then also so that makes sense from the business standpoint, but then with the flip side, with the residential, you hit a bunch of neighborhoods. It's a lot. The lead gen is a lot easier, right? It's someone needs a long cut. Oh, my neighbor does it. Great. With commercial, a lot more relationship building, which is going back to the organic stuff and everything. What did that transition look like?
I mean, I've got the guy on my staff right now who's our maintenance director. He is the guy who is managing these relationships, and he's also tasked because, okay, so you should be able to manage, if you are mowing only, you should be able to manage, one guy can manage like 7, 8, even 9 crews. If your makeup is a little bit different like us, where we have fertilizer and maintenance, maybe the makeup is like 6, 7 crews and 3 or 4 fertilizer techs. Ideally, one day we'd really like to be like one guy for all of fertilizer, like have enough work to where it's 1 and 1. But in the meantime, he's tasked with managing these relationships and going and get more business. And so he's in some groups, some business marketing groups, and building relationships. He's doing a really good job with it. But it is a lot harder because you can't just Facebook blast a bunch of business owners. I would love that. I would love if you find out a way to do this, let me know. But I would love a way to specifically target businesses, commercial areas, especially for snow, right? To be able to say, hey, like this group, this address list here is all specifically for snow removal type of possible clients. And then you're jacking a whole bunch of money on Facebook towards that. That would be something that would be worthwhile for something like me. But because for up till now, I haven't really found a good way to do that. And if your client is everybody, well, okay, yeah, now you Facebook marketing is great for you because you can just blast ads all day long, and whoever comes is who you get. And if you happen to get a golden nugget of a commercial big client in there, whoop-de-doo. But yeah, it is a lot harder. It's a lot harder especially because a lot of the clients that you're going to want to have on the commercial side, you need to talk to 4 people before you reach the person. Yeah. Hey, who's the decision maker? It's not you. Okay, so give me the next best guy. Okay, hey, how you doing? Is the manager in today? No. Okay, cool. When will he be in? Oh, okay. And you're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you the proper decision maker is properly insulated from people like me. So you're trying to break through those barriers. So it is a lot tougher. Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, that's our realm. I mean, our realm is B2B sales. I mean, I'm reaching out to business owners all day and everything. Yeah, I mean, would love to offer any strategies and insights we have on that realm. It's definitely a whole nother monster in itself, B2B sales than B2C sales. There's layers, there's gatekeepers, there's all different stuff. Again, you can't just do Facebook. I mean, for me, it's literally just like going through Instagram and just like DMing people, and then going through Facebook, and then going on websites and scraping emails and scraping phone numbers and cold calling, and like that's why I'm full time on sales, just doing that all day and everything, because it definitely is its own monster. There's no like it's a lot harder to get the leads to come into you. It's more like, hey, I got to go chase after them and do that and stuff. But that definitely been a learning experience for sure. So yeah, I know we're coming up on the hour here. I'm sure we could talk for another hour or two or whatever. But definitely want to be respectful of your time. And I mean, I know we all have even more questions, but yeah, I mean, this is an awesome conversation. I think it was another learning experience for all of us.